What's going on, everybody? I see we already got some people joining in the chat, both good and bad. We have an Iowa fan in here reminding us that apparently they think they own us, but I'll allow it as long as Ryan doesn't get a little too crazy. He's allowed in here. But what's going on, Jackson? Justin, what's going on? Ryan, I'm not going to pop your tweet up. Andrew, go Big Red. What's up, buddy? Let's roll. Can't wait for UTEP in 11 days. Exactly. I'm going to get into a little bit of the UTEP prep today, too. And Scotty Walden had some comments on their scrimmage as well. We got Matt Rule's comments on his scrimmage. So I found some interviews with Scotty Walden. We're going to go through a few of those things, and we're going to go through the single digits as well and get into those. She came over because the Iowa show just got done. Might as well see the illusions in your rep. Hey, this is the spot for it. This is the spot for it. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. Yeah, everybody's welcome here as long as they don't go too crazy and try to get me banned from YouTube. So I'll also be dropping. I'm gonna drop this StreamYard link in here for anybody who does want to pop on here in a little bit. You can pop on there. You don't need to have video. Audio will do just fine. If you want to pop on, ask some questions, talk some football, whatever you want to do. So. But let's just go ahead and dive right into, I guess, the big news of the day, and it's the single digits dropping. Now, the single digit drop before I had an opportunity to get my video out. I was having some issues with my stuff, so over the last few days. So I really had my mouse went out one of the days, and I had no vehicle to go get a new mouse. So that threw me off, and then my camera was having an issue another day. So. We're here to talk about it now, so we'll dive into that a little bit. But first things first that I wanted to run through too. We did get a little update on some of the position groups. We got an update from Ed Foley on special teams. We did get an update from the offensive line. Micah Mazuka was up there. So going through some of the comments of those guys to just kind of start us out here where we get people in here. So. A couple of the things that Ed Foley was talking about, because I know special teams has been a big question mark for us in this offseason, especially the kicking game, right? So he's talking about Tristan, about being like 90%. They're even pushing him a little further than they think they should at times, trying to see how far they can back him up, what kind of leg they can get. But right now, it's between him and John Hull. John Hull is kicking well, but of course we know Tristan has the bigger leg. It's going to be a mark of who can be the most consistent. Of course, it doesn't matter how far Tristan can kick if he can't kick through the uprights. So, it seems like they're both hitting a lot of kicks in practice. So again, it'll just be trying to see it translate to the field, into the game action, and hopefully Tristan Alvano's groin is fully healed up in time, because I'm sold on Tristan Alvano still as a great kicker. Freshman last year, again, the offense was terrible. That puts a lot of pressure on a true freshman kicker to be able to come out and perform. And when all the pressure is on you to get the points, it's very tough. So, but it is nice that we have a little bit of competition between him and John Hull. They're saying they're hitting a larger quantity of balls than they did last year, but it's going to be competition like throughout the season. It's always going to be a competition. Like I said before, as soon as the leash for these guys is getting much smaller in year two under the staff, and we're starting to hear more of that, not only from the coaches, but from the players as well, about how they see that coming along and how the coaches have made that known to them as well. What they're really trying to do right now is test Hull with pressure situations, situational kicking and stuff like that, because, it's one thing you can't fully simulate a game. Of course, you can try to come your best to it, but you can't just absolutely simulate a game. So it remains to be seen. I know a lot of people are lower on Alvano, but I still have a lot of faith in Alvano coming into his sophomore season. So I feel good about our kicking game overall. The punting game is a whole different animal. I'm not fully confident in that, as none of us, I feel like, are. That's one of those things that I really will need to see on the field before I trust our punting game, just because it's been so bad in recent years. Now, when talking about a little bit further into special teams, the return game, we've been trying to get some indications of, because the return game has been pretty non-existent in recent years at Nebraska, almost to the point where we were, well, not almost to the point where we were celebrating when we get a fair catch and the ball wasn't dropped, right? So it's one of those things where they want a guy back there who's sure-handed, but also a guy who can go back there and make a play and be a smart decision maker. And it seems like they're testing them in those situations and trying to, back them up on punt returns, back them up to the goal line, and really see who handles the best situation there. it sounds like, in the punt return game, it's IGC and Ja'Cory Barney with Emmett Johnson, not Emmett Smith. Emmett Johnson being a backup. I mean, he might be Emmett Smith by the time no, I'm just playing. I'm just playing. Don't quote me on that. But no, but Emmett Johnson's going to be kind of like a backup there, but he's also going to be kind of a secondary kick returner on the kick return. So I know they probably don't want to throw him out there and punt returns as probably our starting running back to be able to go out there and get injured. So you don't want him on kick returns, punt returns, the whole night, and running, leading the backfield. So they're going to have him out there on kick returns with Ramir, and then the punts are going to be IGC and Ja'Cory Barney with Emmett as kind of that backup. Ja'Cory's also going to be a factor on the kick return. So those are the names to really pay attention to in trying to get this kick return game going, because our leading returner last year was Tommy Hill, believe it or not. So they really got to do something. Talking about the net gain of, the net of the field position and how important that is, especially with the offense being as abysmal as it was last year and going against teams who can punt. We're in the Big Ten. The offenses are bad, teams can punt, and Nebraska's got to be able to, Bushini's got a leg on him. We just got to be able to see it. Can he hit it clean? Can he hit it far? And can he hit it consistently? That's what we don't know right now, and that's what we have yet to see. So it's hard to have a ton of confidence in that punt game. I'd say it's my biggest question mark right now. Now moving forward a little bit into, let's kind of work over into what they were talking about in terms of the offensive line. Micah Mazuka was at the podium today, and Micah Mazuka, as I don't know if you've seen the pictures, but he's a large human being. If you've seen the interview or seen the pictures, large man. And he's got that gritty mindset, right? Formerly in the SEC, he was at Baylor. He's played in the Big 12, or he's played at Florida in the SEC, at Baylor in the Big 12, right? He's over at Nebraska now, and even talked about kind of the relationships that he had in Nebraska that led to him coming over, saying that Ev Foley was actually the first coach to ever offer him a scholarship in the 10th grade when he was at Temple. And he said he's been close to him ever since then. And like, that was his first official scholarship offer from any school, was Ed Foley offered him over when they were at Temple. And then, yeah, he said been close ever since. And he kind of knew he wanted to be in Nebraska from the time that he visited for last season. And things didn't work out, but he said he's thankful for the opportunity, and Matt Rule got him over here for this season, because we're going to need kind of that hard-nosed, gritty lineman who's just, fearless. Like he was talking about in there, he's just one of those guys. You can tell by the way he's standing at the podium, right? It looks like he just wants to pick the podium up, right? He's just sitting there grabbing it, hitting on it and stuff like that. So he's a guy, like, he's a guy, he's got energy, like, in the way he talks, he expects to win games, wants to win games. And I think, one of the biggest things that when listening to him talk, the edge that he has to him, because he said the expectation is we want to win games, right? We're not worried about us having to prepare for them. We want them to have to prepare for us. They got to deal with us, basically. At the end of the day, he wants our offensive line to be the ones that people got to prepare for, not feeling like we have to prepare for other defensive lines, et cetera. And so he really wants to change that mindset to where in Nebraska, it's been kind of like, can our offensive line be good enough, right? Can it be good enough to, give our quarterback enough time to make plays, right? But it's never been our offensive line being a standard well, in recent years, right? It used to be, but we've lost that of our offensive line being a powerhouse and a standard. And it's really just been like, can we make it good enough to supplement the rest of the roster? But I do like the mentality that they have right now with, we want this to be a strength of this team, right? We want to do it with these group of guys we have. Now, of course, the injuries hurt. There is some inexperience at, second, tertiary levels of that offensive line. But the starting five, man, I really like what we have in the starting five. I really like what we have in the leadership for the young guys coming behind it. And there's a lot of talent at the second, at the second string behind those guys. There's freshmen. It's really hard with a couple of these freshmen to be able to start a freshman as a lineman. I think that's probably the hardest position, besides maybe even, like, it might be even hard in quarterback to start as an offensive lineman, as a true freshman, and be able to produce well, because it's such a position of development. You come out and they're looking for you to have basic fundamentals, balance, footwork, good pad level, those type of things, but they don't really start to teach you, you know, a lot of it's almost like they rebuild you once you get to college, an offensive lineman. They really teach you their tendencies and their style of way to do things. And they like to build off of that. So it will be interesting to see what Raiola has done with the younger group of guys that they have gotten in here to really kind of see, what development he can bring on. Because again, year over year, this line got much better, right? And so I think people are still a little bit. I don't know. There's getting out on other shows and stuff like that. It seems like people are still a little bit low on this offensive line, and I don't think we need to be low on it. I think they improved significantly year over year, and they're going to improve significantly again. I think people want a great line, and we're just not there yet, right? Building there again, but the line's going to be good this year, and I do have a lot of faith in Corcoran stepping in there and being able to kind of fill that role as well. So he had a little bit of talking at the podium as well, too. So it was interesting to hear from him. So I'm going to get into some of y'all's comments here. Let me Justin, so that Scott Baldwin that played I was the home state of John Wayne. Ty Robinson, yes, sir. You can have my lunch money. You can have my car keys too if you want. Yeah, he's a big old guy. Yeah, for sure. What's going on, Nebraska Rascal? Appreciate you hopping in. Dylan Raiola makes preseason true freshman All-America team. Yep, I was going to touch on that as well. We'll go ahead and talk about it. Yep, Raiola yesterday making the preseason true freshman All-America team. I think he actually headed up the list. It was 24/7, I believe, and I think they have him listed first on their list of the guys. So he was leading that list. And so 24/7 was one of the ones that actually kept him at the top on three. We know was the recruiting engine that dropped him, after they said it was before he committed to Nebraska, but we all saw that drop after he committed. We get football on Saturday and not Nebraska to do until next week. That's what I'm saying. Like, we just got football on the field, something to watch. Like, we were happy for the video game, so I know we're going to be excited just seeing football on the field. I do know that I can't remember who it was. What is it? The FCS team playing Hawaii? I don't know. Some FCS team missed their flight for something happened with the bus or something like that, and so they're not even out there. I think it's the FCS team, whoever plays Hawaii. I think it's Delaware State maybe, but I'm pretty sure they missed. Their plane. So we'll see how that works out. But it's not off to a good start for the FCS teams. Iowa's QBs are not good at all. Have you seen their scrimmage? Oh, here we go. Iowa's offense probably not good. Talking about scrimmages, Iowa practice. Okay, I'm gonna stay out of that. What's going on, John? Appreciate you hopping in. Yeah, Delaware State versus Hawaii. Yeah, they missed their flight, so Delaware is off to a rip-roaring start. All right, so okay, let me get back over into y'all. Keep dropping stuff in here. I'll answer questions, whatever y'all want to drop them in here. And we could talk about Iowa a little bit if y'all want to as well. And also, I'm curious to know, what do y'all think about the single digits? Like, who do you think that was snubbed, if anybody? Do you think they got them right? Do you think they got them wrong? Because I'm going to give a little bit of a take here in a little bit. And I'm also going to go back and describe to you what exactly Matt Rule means by these single digits, what the meaning, because I feel like a lot of that's getting lost in translation. Whereas some people are talking about it, it can mean, it's almost like these are the team captains. Some saying like, not all of these guys have to be starters. Like, do they have to be starters? So I'll go back into the philosophy of what Matt Rule meant by those. But drop your comments and let me know what you think in advance of that. So moving on to Mekhi Gaber. Like, Mekhi Gaber is, when talking about replacing Javen Wright, because of course the Javen Wright injury, absolutely brutal. I've talked a little bit about this in my recruiting episode. And if y'all saw this last week, I also did a video comparing 2023 offseason to 2024 in Matt Rule's press conference. And in that, going into that a little bit, the year-over-year jump in that, and when talking about the scrimmage that they most recently have, right? A lot of what the conversation was out of that was procedural penalties and turnovers is what ran, with on Twitter. But a lot of what Matt Rule was actually saying in that press conference was, the first team didn't turn the ball over. right? There were things with the first team that kept them from having successful drives, converting three into seven, a couple of procedural penalties, but no turnovers on the day. It said they started out, with a couple of lackadaisical drive, and then they put together, a 14 play drive. Then they put together an 11 play drive, right? So they were starting to actually kind of nickel and dime their way down the field, be able to convert on third downs, et cetera. So it's good to hear that. But especially they're doing it also, I don't think a lot of people take this into account, into a defense that's significantly improved over last year's defense, right? And they were talking about how they've introduced more advanced schematics on both sides of the ball, right? Trying to run a little bit more of an advanced scheme, NFL style of certain details, as Matt Rule liked to put it. And the fact that the offense is still having success, first team offense is still having success and not turning the ball over, when a year ago, Matt Rule was talking it was every single first team, second team, they were all turning the ball over. They were all having procedural penalties, right? The second team had 3 or 4 turnovers, something like that, which it's our second team. I would imagine Harburg, was heading that unit up. So, hard to know where the penalty or turnovers come from there. But to say it wasn't expected from our second team, it especially against this defense, it was probably to be expected. Because those guys got a lot of catching up to do. And again, I know they probably rotated guys in and out of there, but yeah, it's one of those things where Nebraska is a couple of injuries or one quarterback injury away from being in a really, really tough situation. So the real question is, will Rule ever give a true freshman a single digit? Doubtful. I don't think so. I think I was actually surprised. No, I'm not surprised in any other reason other than the fact that he has only been here for 7-8 months. Jamal Banks, but Jamal Banks hit the ground running from day one. Like, he came in here ready to work, ready to lead, ready to play. Like, he was the epitome of what you should do as a player when you come into a new university as a transfer. He was the best receiver at Wake Forest, and he could have came in with that mentality that I am the best. They brought me here to be the top receiver. There was no receiver that could compete with me via the roster, et cetera. And he just came in there and put his head down and got to work. And it's shown, and it's clearly, Matt Rule it's been evident, and he's one of the toughest players on the team. So it was nice for him to be the sole offensive player. Now, I would have liked to see another offensive player in there, that I'll get into in a little bit, but not surprising to see the defense lead the day in those. Tell your friends, family, frenemies, cashiers at Publix about the Magic shots. I appreciate you, Jackson, but Jackson's my biggest hype man here. In years past, I believe they used to release players 40s time. Wonder if they still do that. Would like to compare team speed versus last year. And the 40 times, the 40 times are very, very deceiving, because, and we all know this, right? It's straight line speed versus football speed, but it still would be interesting to know that, because there's a couple of guys like we had, Tommy Hill. Tommy Hill put on 20 pounds. And some people were wondering what his speed would be like. It would be nice to test and just see kind of, if it had an effect on the straight line speed, et cetera, because I think the net of what he would gain and putting that weight on versus, losing some straight line speed, I think his football speed will be fine, but I think he'll make up for that in explosiveness, his power, and his downhill ability. As putting on 20 pounds, he could play a little bit more downhill, makes him a little bit more of a complete player for the next level. So if you lose a little straight line speed because of that, but yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they're going to do that. It's the first game on the schedule. You think Nebraska has a greater than 75% chance of winning? Well, UTEP week 1. I will say Sonny's an Illinois fan. I will say, Sonny, I have said multiple times in shows this offseason that Illinois and Rutgers are the two teams in that first 6-game stretch that I think can cause Nebraska some problems because of their physicality. All right, I'll give you that, and a good front defensive 7. So y'all and Rutgers, I'll give you that much. Michigan Marsh, only one player on offense earned a single. Oh, did they? What time did they announce that? Only one player on offense earned a single digit. Kind of surprising. Is it though? Like, that's the thing, because let me go into the philosophy here of the single digits, and if I can find my notes here, 1 second, and this will kind of give us an indication of, because I think this kind of has was lost over the the last year or so is what their meaning is, because they're still team captains. That's another thing people have to remember too, is we do still have team captains that will be given out as well. So these do not replace those. But I'll go ahead and pull it up right here for y'all. Let me just pull this up on a window so I can actually pull it up on the screen for y'all. So, and I'm sure y'all have seen this, but I'll just pull this one up. It's a good graphic somebody made here. So, all right, left side, 0, Hutmacher, Jamari Butler with the 1, Gifford with the 2, Buford with the 3, Jamal Banks, the lone offensive player at 4, Bullock at 5, Tommy Hill 6, Hartzog 7, Singleton 8, and Ty 9, right? So you see our safeties there, right? Got our secondary there, defensive line. So, and then the one guy, Jamal Banks from the offense. Now, the one guy that I wanted to see be a single digit is Thomas Fidone. Of course, just I think Thomas Fidone, he could be a team captain, but I think Thomas Fidone is just one of those guys that the mental strength, because it's here. Actually, let me pull this up for you. All right, so explaining the single digit numbers here, and I'm going to read this out for you before I get into that. So the single digit numbers said as a portion of Nebraska's 5th practice, Spring Media Tuesday, explained what he hopes will become a new Husker tradition, awarding single digit numbers to the team's toughest players. In his previous jobs, he said, I got really tired of having a guy in my program who spent 3 years as like number 47 and then was getting ready to play and wanted to wear like number 1, number 3, and he had earned it, and we would give it to a recruit. So what we decided was, you know what, 1 through 9, now 0 through 9 would go to the 9 or now 10 toughest guys on the team. And when I say toughest, we define that for the guys, but really the guys who best exemplify what it means to be a Cornhusker, to be accountable, to be dependable, to be tough, hardworking, competitive every single day. And so as we get into training camp, the players will vote on it, and we hope it kind of becomes our tradition, right? Okay, so when it comes to that, player voted, right? And they're going by the guys who, like your Giffords, right? I think Gifford's a prime example of this. He is a guy who, during winter mat drills, when they had these guys really going through the motions of like, you know, we're going to try to have them do things they don't want to do off the field, but they set up this point system during winter mat drills to where, let's say there was a women's basketball game on, right? And it's one of those nights where you just want to relax, right? You don't feel like going to the women's basketball game. And I'm not picking on women's basketball. I'm just saying, just using an example. The leaders who went to those games, or the people who like showed up and did those things, they would get extra, points. And they were also the guys that were, trying to get the other guys up to get to going and doing this stuff. And just, that was the leadership and the dirty work that Matt Rule, he loves what people show on the field, right? But what do you do as a leader when it's the stuff that you don't want to do, right? The players love to get out there and play football. They love to get out there and practice, right? Well, they may not love to get out there and practice, but some of them do. But it's the little things, right? The attention to detail. I told I tell people about this when I was in Navy boot camp, right? They had us focusing on the smallest little thing, right? We had to put a little 45-degree like fold in the corner of our bed sheet, right? There had to be this little fold over, or a pillowcase had to be perfectly flipped over with each of the little, the open ends had to be flipped over and kind of flipped at each corner, right? It's small things that don't matter, but it's attention to detail. And when it comes to doing the little things right, that these are going to be the guys that, when something happens, something happens that is to a teammate, or if something adverse happens, those are going to be the guys that are the ones that get everybody up and get them going. Gifford, we heard him talk the other day in front of the team. And when you hear him talk about why he returned, what made him come back, he said, we're not losing anymore, right? Tommy Hill said something similar, like, we're not losing anymore, right? Those are the type of guys that are just like, we're going to bring this team up with us. And that's the type of guys that, are going to be leaders on this team. Those are the type of guys that are going to be, the single digits. Those are the type of guys that are going to be team captains. So and I think it's, when he's talking about physical and toughness, I think a lot of it's set up for the defense to kind of shine there. And of course, the offensive linemen couldn't get votes. So, offensive linemen are excluded from this. So I think the one big thing that I would have wanted to see was Fedoni be on here. But again, it's a good problem to have because we have so many guys that are deserving of this, Javen Wright being another, um, that it really is a point where it's like it separates these guys from the rest, right? Because we argue about, the guys that we think should have it all offseason. Well, the fact that we're able to sit here and argue about like 15, 16 guys, 14 guys, whatever, that we think may deserve them, I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing that we weren't all able to come here and hammer down all 10. I didn't. I made my list and I didn't have all 10, right? Right. So that's a good problem to have. But let me just keep rolling here. Will they hand out the black shirts or do they not do that anymore? No, this is completely separate from the black shirts for sure. And that's why, that's why I said like they don't necessarily have to be a start. I'm sure they will be if they're here, but they don't and then team captains as well, because like, Emmett Johnson's a guy that I love, right? So who's going to be the team captains? Who's going to be, and now you can see why with that philosophy, why freshmen usually, aren't the ones that step up here, because he's talking about guys that have been in the program, which is why it was surprising for me that Jamal Banks got it. And I've said, multiple times this offseason, I am super high on Jamal Banks. I am very confident in this, and I've made this prediction all throughout the offseason that he is going to be a top 15 receiver in all of college football by the year's end. In all of college football, he will be a top 15 receiver, in my opinion, by the season's end. So that's how good he can be. It's time kind of very lately. So I want that picture. Black shirts on X. Just type in black shirts on X, and they posted this picture up. So you'll be able to get that from them. But let me go ahead and let me put the link here as well, too. So just so y'all know, I dropped it in here earlier, but just in case y'all want to join in the conversation, you want to talk football, ask questions, anything right there. You don't need audio. Or you don't need video. Sorry, you need audio. You don't need video. So yeah, if y'all want to stop in, just click that link, and I will pull you into the room here. So let me go ahead and bump forward a little bit. Also drop your snubs. Let me know who you think was snubbed out of that. But let me go ahead and bring up a couple of things about UTEP for you here. Now, when we're listening to Matt Rule talk about the UTEP preparation, said they were starting UTEP game prep on Wednesday. However, they had been doing game prep, throughout the offseason. They said they've been for the first 4 games or so that Matt Rule and they've been trying to implement stuff to get them already ready for those games and kind of schematically work those games through and just kind of get them prepped and ready for that. And then now it's like the full installation phase. But in listening to Scotty Walden, UTEP's head coach, talk, it was very, very interesting that he shared a very similar sentiment. And let me get that back up for you here. So this is talking about their scrimmage as well. And you're going to hear a lot of similar stuff that you heard from Matt Rule about ours. And then there's also a clip about who might be their starting quarterback this season. So let me go ahead and pull this up for y'all, and I'll play this here so you can get an idea. All right.
Oh my gosh, we had so many explosive plays. Javon Jackson had a big day. The offensive line in general had a great day. I was really proud. We've been, banged up there and having to shuffle the lineup, a lot. And, I'm just really proud of those guys coming off the ball hard. We ran for a lot of yards that day. It was really good. It was really good to see us come off the ball. I had some explosive runs. Really I was expecting, pass game, be explosive, but we kind of got the perimeter game going. And then the run game opened up, and then the run game did really, really, really good. I mean, you go to any back. I thought all of our backs, Corey Wren, Jolly. I mean, Ezel Jolly had a big day. Even back there, a guy that's really just, you can tell he's going to be a primetime player in our program is Ashton Emery. Ashton has just been really proud of him. But I thought our backs ran hard. I thought our tight ends blocked hard. Offensive line did a heck of a job. I thought we played really physical in the secondary. That was good to see. Oscar Moore, Xavier Smith, to me, really stood out. And then a young freshman from Keller Fossil Ridge High School, Echo Taylor. Echo made a lot of plays in the scrimmage for TFL. So I was pleased. We were much cleaner Still got to clean up some procedural penalties, but we were much cleaner in this scrimmage than we were scrimmage one.
Just not many opportunities, as you like to say, left before
Yeah.
you guys hit the road to Lincoln. I guess, when do you guys start prepping for Nebraska, or is it just more of a
Sure.
game plan that, hey, we're going to focus on ourselves, or how are you guys going about this last week and a half, I guess?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we've actually been prepping for them even since the summer. Just doing like walkthroughs, and as a coaching staff, we always prep for the first 4 opponents in the summer, and then we'll translate that into our OTAs of what we see with, Nebraska, Southern Utah, Liberty, and Colorado State, right? So those first 4 are really important. Usually after the first 4, right, you have 4 games to go off of from a self-scout or from a scout standpoint. So you don't really necessarily, need to do your prep work on game 5 and so on. But for me, I did a little bit of that just because I'm trying to get familiar with all the new opponents. So to answer your question, this week, our mentality is we will actually touch on every team, all 4 teams this week. So starting tomorrow, we're going to touch on, 2 out of our first 4 opponents. The next day, we're going to focus on just 1 opponent.
All right. So you kind of see there a little bit of similar to what Matt Rule was talking about with his preparation. And they've kind of been working these first 4 games in, just like Nebraska has, and they're kind of installing that all this week. But yeah, and some of the guys he talked about there, Ashton Emery is an 18-year-old running back, from Rockwall, Texas. They do have some guys that can run on there. Now, the quarterback, that's still up in the air about who their quarterback is, and I'll get to that in just a second. But first off, Scotty Walden, he sounds like such a down to earth coach. He's a Southern football coach. He talks just like one, right? So he's gonna have that team fired up, prepared, and ready. Again, it is a transition year. It's his first year there, so they're working on. They've having some issues too, procedural issues and stuff like that as well. This team, that team will be fired up, right? They're not gonna lay over and die. It's not gonna be one of those things. But they are what they are in a transitional year. 122nd, I think, in RJ Young's top, 134 FBS teams or whatever. So it's going to be a little bit of a struggle for them, but they're going to be fired up and they're going to be ready to go. So Nebraska's got to be ready to go in this game. As we know, we can't take anybody lightly, right? And now let's move forward and just hear what we're hearing about the quarterback battle between Caden McNell and Skylar Locklear. McConnell. I don't know why I said it like that. McConnell. Guys, sometimes I can't read, dude. I'm just kidding. I can read sometimes. But let's go ahead and dive into the quarterback controversy here so we can get an idea of what we're looking at here. And if y'all want me to break down the quarterbacks too, I can go into that. But let's go ahead and see what
is, early in fall camp, one day was Cage's day to run with the ones, one day was Skylar's, and they would get the full day. And then what we did is we started switching it because, I wanted to see that. I wanted to get the volume, if you will, of reps. Okay, ton of reps with the ones, ton of reps with the twos. And then, okay, those groups also, you got a chart too. If I showed you our quarterback production chart, it looks like a hieroglyphic because there's so many different categories we're charting on these guys. I'm being real. I want to see how they do if they're with the 1 offense against the 2 defense. And if they're against the 1 with the 1 offense, how they do against the 1 defense, and vice versa, right? So I want to chart all that stuff. Now then we started doing is trying to throw a sudden change at them just so they got to adapt. And so now we've gone in the past probably week or so, 1 period, Skylar will be with the ones, and then it'll flip the next period. And so now they're going back and forth, having to adapt to working with different people, and so that's been really good to kind of keep them. I'm all about, in a quarterback competition, I'm all about keeping them as uncomfortable as possible. Because if they're comfortable, then it kind of gets mundane. And I want to see who can adapt to change. Because that's what playing quarterback is all about. Who can adapt to change and still be effective leading the team. So to answer your question, like where we're at, we are still neck and neck. I'm not going to make a decision on the starting quarterback until next week. And so we have a mock game to go through. We still have a lot of evaluation. I would say a lot of our competitions, I think we have a good idea of who our starters are. Certainly not at every spot, but the mock game is going to be big in that. And I'm going to evaluate everything. When you got guys that are neck and neck, it'd be different if one guy totally separated. The guy I had in my last place, he totally separated by this time. It was done deal. We named him. It was done. But these 2 guys, I love working with them every day. And I mean that. And I know, and you can ask me every day. And up till I give you that answer, up till I can make the decision, I'm going to keep giving the same answer because they literally, unless one of them separates, literally, I can show you the chart. One of them's we chart touchdown drive. We don't chart just like their touchdowns. We chart touchdown drives. So if they led a touchdown drive, so like I think one of them has, last I looked, it was yesterday, it was 21 touchdown drives. The other one's got like 20. I mean, it's like it's literally his neck and neck. Both of them graded out 81% in the scrimmage. Like we're trying to grade it as hard as we can to try to find the deviation. It's really hard, man. Both these, the bottom line is this. I mean, if you want reality, like we can win with both these guys. You know, I really feel that strong, and we're blessed to have that, because I think this day and age college football, you got to have more than one quarterback. You know, the way we're doing.
All right. Now, let me drop into some of your thoughts here on that. I'm a dinosaur. I've tried StreamYard and couldn't figure it out. Never mind me. I don't know if you're on X or anything, but if you want to reach out, I could help you out. But you just click the link, and you should just be able to hit join, like the thing. It should just have you test your audio and video, and then you can just hit join. Should be pretty simple. Wonder if UTEP still has that. Yes, they do. Javon Jackson, I believe it was. Yeah, he's a junior. He's 5'8", 200. He's just a bowling ball, right? He's a wrecking ball in there, but 1,300 yards last year, 252 carries, 5.4 per carry. So yeah. But looking at their roster, most of their running backs are very young freshmen. I think Javon is the oldest running back they have in their roster as a junior. So they do have, a lot of, young talent. Ezel Jolly's a freshman, one that he mentioned there as well. And then, like I said, Ashton Emery's a freshman as well. So a lot of young players on that team too. So that's another thing that, is going to just hold them back a little bit this year. They're a very young team. Now, looking at the quarterbacks, you have Skylar Locklear, who's a sophomore, 5'11", 189 pounds. And, he's very little playing experience, 59 yards and a touchdown last season. And then you slide over to Cade McConnell, and he's a junior, a little bit taller, 6'1", 195. But, not the most accurate guy in the world, 1,400 yards, 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, a 38.3 quarterback rating. So yeah, it's like he said, they're really kind of testing these guys out. But part of me, I don't know, part of me feels like Skylar Locklear might get the job. But then again, I am not in the know. But I just, out of looking at the two quarterbacks, I just feel like Skylar Locklear is a better quarterback. But of course, McConnell's got the experience, right? So we'll see how that works. Maybe they roll out, we've seen teams do a double quarterback type of system, even in to seeing who just gives them the spark. I don't know if they're willing to do that in the Nebraska type of game, but we'll see. So it makes it sound like their offense is awesome. Well, I think he kind of has a duty to put out not make his, I think he has a duty kind of, do make it sound like the work they're putting in is good and stuff like that. But I also do think that he has some talented players. I just don't think, of course, that's an offense that's going to be able to move the ball well in Nebraska's defense. Seems like a great coach. Yeah, he really does. Seems like a super cool guy. They also run a 3-3-5. Yes, they do. They do. Which, yeah, that's another thing too that will prepare their offense a little bit, because they're used to facing a 3-3-5 now. However, the way Tony Wright runs his 3-3-5 is a lot different, and it's a lot more advanced, because Tony White's goes back to people who kind of were in the early stage creations of this defense, right? So he's learned from people who, like, at the very beginning of this 3-3-5 defense coming into, kind of game plans, etc. He worked with those guys, right? So Tony White's knowledge and understanding of the 3-3-5 is something that I don't think people really understand how deep of his knowledge it is. But yes, they do run a 3-3-5, so that will be interesting to kind of see how we go against that 3-3-5, because our offense has been working against it as well. So that's going to benefit our offense in a way, I believe, just because we've been seeing a lot more advanced concepts and going against a tougher, more stout defense running that 3-3-5. So Real spoke highly of him as a coach. Yeah, I've heard everybody speak really good things about Scotty Walden. I appreciate that, Mike. Thank you. And two, if y'all are here, don't mind dropping a like. Just drop a like, and it really helps me out. So I appreciate y'all, man. Thank you. Coach want the ball in under 11 seconds. Yeah. What's going on, Ken? I appreciate you hopping in here. Might pop on a StreamYard in a bit if you're still live. I'm going live till the top of the next hour. So yeah, if you want to hop in here, go right ahead. Now moving forward to a little bit more Sorry, I want to pull up another little clip here from Scotty Walden talking. Sorry, guys, let me get that for you. And let me know. I'm curious because the spread, right? Spread's 26.5. This has been a question I've been getting a lot, right? Does Nebraska cover? And another thing is, what does the score? What does the score have to be for Nebraska to pull Raiola? What do you think's a comfortable margin? That's what I'm interested in, because my take on this is this. I think the 26.5 point spread, first off, I avoid spreads like the plague if they're that big, especially week one. Week one, 20. Yeah. I don't like to bet week one. I don't like to bet in general, but week one especially, right? So my take on it was this. I think if Nebraska is up by 3 scores going in the fourth quarter, I think Raiola gets pulled. I think if there is a little bit of momentum from UTEP, let's say they're in the red zone going in the fourth quarter, Nebraska's up by 3 scores, they have a chance to make it a 2-score game. I think he stays in. Now, I'm not saying I expect Nebraska to be in that situation. However, it's one of those things where, we just don't know. It's week one. We've seen Nebraska falter in week one against much tougher competition. However, you never know. UTEP could come in, play with their tails on fire, and just get up for that game. So, but I do know Raiola needs valuable experience in these games. And Matt Rhule has said time and time again, the way to get better is by playing football. So he's going to want him out there playing football as much as possible. So avoid spreads in Nebraska. Yeah, that's another thing. I've stopped betting on my own teams. That never works out well. You bet with your heart, not your brain. So I think Nebraska will have second string in the second half. No idea the score. Yeah, the only thing that makes me think that they might leave them in longer is just that I think the rest of the offense, I think they might, rotate the twos in a little bit more starting the second half. But I'm just curious to see how long they want to keep them out there, because they need every bit of valuable game experience before week 2 against Colorado. So I think it's going to be, the game's got to be pretty well put away before they do that. But I don't think it'll happen at halftime. Coaches these days don't want to pull their starters like they used to. Absolutely. Yeah, that's not, probably won't make it on by 7. We'll see how long we're going, Ken. There's no way I would bet the spread with Nebraska. Too unpredictable. Yeah, week 1 especially. No spreads week 1, especially college spreads are that big. Now here's kind of a little quick snippet of Scotty Walden, kind of how he's feeling going into the week as well. Just wanted to share this with y'all as well, just to give you an idea.
Coach, just to separate the team away from it, you personally, you're 10 days away from your first game here at UTEP. What's that like?
Hey, surreal. The other day we were like, man, next Saturday. I was like, wait, next Saturday? It's crazy, So we just got to do a good job staying hunkered in and dialed into the daily process, because this week is we had a Monday off day. Today was a blue collar Tuesday. Tomorrow situational Wednesday. No sweat Thursday, fast Friday. So we're getting a mock run of the actual game week we will do next week and every week. And so it's critical that we get those reps in. But I can't wait. I'm so excited to get to take the field as a minor, to wear that orange and blue, man, to hold that pickaxe and to lead this team in a battle. Is going to be a lot of fun. And, man, these kids have been working so hard. They're going to be ready for this. They're excited as heck. But we got to take it day by day, and we can't jump the gun.
Yeah. So, I mean, he seems like a guy who's going to have these players locked in and ready to go, that they're not going to be I don't think this is a thing where UTEP's going to come in and they're going to think to themselves, hey, we're outmatched. I listen to a lot of player interviews as well. And a lot of players echo the same sentiment. They're fired up and they're ready to go. I just, it's a little bit of what I think they lack in talent, of course. And, but Nebraska, should be able to come out and, I think win by 3+ scores. So that's what should happen. Now, let's go ahead. Hey, what's up, Coach BA? Coach on your prayer. Watch the rest of this great place. And BA, if you want to hop in, let me know. I dropped the StreamYard link. So if you want to hop in and say something, just let me know. But now moving forward, I did want to touch on, because I want to touch on Mekhi Gaber, right? Mekhi Gaber was at the podium today. Like I'd mentioned before, of course, we know the injury that happened to Javen Wright. Very unfortunate, right? Super excited about Javen Wright this year. Another year playing. The linebacker position was really poised to have a great year, right? First year playing linebacker last year, just absolutely killed it. Came in this year, fired up and ready to go. But the thing is, he will be back at some point this season. Now, when they were talking about, Mekhi Gaber, or talking to him about, the replacement, one of the things that I did like about this team, or do like about this team in general, is just how much, again, they talk about family and lifting each other up, right? So, and I'll just give you some quotes of what he said today. He said they lift Javen up, right? They lifted Javen up. They play for their brothers that aren't there. And I really love that he said that we play for our brothers that aren't here. We lift them up. We are brothers. Like, we're a family on this team. And when talking even about the importance of Bullock, right? He said Bullock is there for him whenever he needs him. He said he could call him at any time of day, and John Bullock would be there for him. Like, he said, he's a true leader, and there's nobody like him on this team. And to me, right, that year over year, that says a lot about this team and the closeness of these guys. And this is another reason why I think a lot of this is going to transition out on the field, and why I don't necessarily think, in a lot of cases, the drop off will be on the defensive side, too significantly big from one to the next. Now, losing Javen is a huge, huge loss, right? And again, he will be back at some point this season. But when talking about the rotation, the linebacker rotation without him, so he said it's him, John, and then Steph and V9, of course, Stephon Thompson, and V9 being Vincent Shavers, who we're all excited about. But the mindset here is what I like from Mekhi, right? And this is the mindset that this team is building. He said, wherever they want me to play, I'll be there. He said he's primarily inside right now, but he's like, if I need to play DB, I'll play DB. But he said, you have to know what you're doing and be locked in and prepared for every single play. And if you don't, it's next man up. That's kind of what I was talking about, alluding to a little bit earlier in this live stream, where that leash is getting shorter, right? And Mekhi echoes that as well. And now there's this standard in place, and these players echo the same standard that the coaches have been echoing. It's like, we know that if we go out there and make mistakes, our ass is on the line, right? And I think that's the biggest thing that people really are, we're all being very cautiously optimistic about the mistakes that these team is going to make. And again, I touched on when Rule was talking about letting players play through their mistakes so we can build a confident player. But there is a cap on that, right? It's no more of the Jeff Sims going to start for 4 games before we pull him, that type of deal. There's no more of a running back's going to fumble 4 games in a row before we pull them. It seemed to be a little bit of that in the beginning, but that was when they were talking about, it was less of the coaches, less of the players, more of the coaches. And now we're starting to see that shift and that transition in the way that these players are talking about him. Now, even talking about the defense in general, what he expects from this defense going forward, saying last year was a warm up, but they're getting ready to dominate. It's a lot of guys that will play, but I'll bring it to Matt Rule's press conference last year. Early in the season, I remember him saying he wanted to have a rotation on this defense. It was either him or Tony White in 2023 of 17 to 25 guys, right? So I think we can expect a little bit more, in that 20 to 25, but that's the rotation of guys they want to have running through here, right? 17 to 25 guys they want to have rotating through that defense. That's a lot of turnovers, a lot of players, right? So it's all hands on deck. And it seems like the guys are prepared, because they all know that they need to be step up and ready to play, or ready to go when it's time to play. Because he said a lot of guys on that team are going to play. Even some of the guys that we may not expect to get valuable playing time might. So when talking about it, they're all about team, right? Not complaining. You can't have one guy going out there and working. They all lift each other up. They all work for the guy next to them. They all work for each other. And I think the biggest takeaway from what he said, he loves special teams, right? And that's a guy who's a gritty, hard worker who wants to go out there and get things done. And, special teams isn't always fun to be the guy who's going out there and, if you're not the return man, it's not really all, you risk injuries. I liked special teams when I had the opportunity to play on it, just because it gave you a chance to go earhole a guy. But the fact that, he loves special teams and it's something he welcomes and he doesn't want Ed Foley to pull him out, I think that says a lot about him as a player and about his grit and his heart. And, I think we're learning more and more about guys like Mackay as they talk, and we're starting to see some of the transition of these guys' mindset as well. Let me get some of your comments here. So is Javen Wright having more issues with blood clots again? They have not said what it is, but if I had to guess, because they did say it was, some kind of medical issue, unnamed, I would venture to guess it was that. However, I don't want to speak on that without fully knowing. I can probably get confirmation on that. I do know his cousin, so I could reach out, but I don't know if they want that information out there. So stand by. If I can get an update on that, I'll give it to you. Huge loss. Javen had over 50 tackles, second most. Yes, he did. And a couple interceptions too. So it's a big loss. But again, I think we're in a better suited position this year to have guys step up in his place, of course, than we were last year. Vincent Shavers, I'm ready to see Vincent Shavers, kind of come out here and see what they're talking about with him being able to fly out there, fly around the field, and no fear of failure, right? Not make him, he might make a few fresh mistakes, but he's going to go out there, he's going to play hard, and he's going to play fast. He's going to play with reckless abandon, and that's what they want. So hopefully Javen comes back sooner rather than later, but it's good that it happened. You don't want it to ever happen. It's good that it happened now, as opposed to halfway through the season, because, his 6th year, you want him to be able to go out there and be able to, really put a good season together and really kind of show all of what, because I think last year was just a glimpse into what he can be. And that, second most on the team with 50 tackles, that was just a glimpse into what he could be, right? I think he was going to take a bigger jump this year. So, but if we have him back, fresh and ready to go for the second half of the season, the good thing is that it doesn't seem like it's a ligament issue, anything muscular, at least that we've been told. I feel like they would have disclosed that if it was something like that. That's a good thing. Him coming off of that would mean that there's not really a rehab. There's not really a mental block of things that, oh, my knees, I tore my ACL. Like there's this mental block of like when I ruptured my bicep, right? I ruptured my right bicep twice a year apart and full rupture. And so, but I was sparring and I've been boxing for like a decade. So I was sparring through a right hook. My arm got straightened and my bicep tore. And over the course of the next year, I was trying to work my way back into sparring, right? But there was that mental block. And then it happened again. I re-ruptured it, right? And so it took me almost 8 months to feel comfortable like throwing that punch the way I did before, right? And so there's this mental block that comes along with injuries. And I think that's another factor here that's going to help Javen get back, is if it's not structural ligament or anything like that, he doesn't have that kind of like mental gaff where it's like, I got to get myself up to game speed. So hopefully that lends to him coming back quicker once the medical issues have resolved. But that's why I think that this, prognosis is going to be positive, and it leads to him coming back and leaving, hitting the ground running right where he left off and be able to come in and perform at a high level. So just really, really happy that we haven't heard anything about it being anything like that. So yeah, never mind me. That's what happened. So we don't know for sure again, but they got guys ready to step up his place again. We were deep in our linebacker room and our defensive line room. If we're going to lose people, defensive line and linebacker are the two places that Nebraska has the depth, but it always hurts, always hurts. Hey, I appreciate you, Fox. Appreciate you hopping in here, man. I appreciate everybody, all the fans that hop in here every Tuesday with me. I appreciate y'all. Shavers is so athletic and explosive. He can cover from sideline to sideline, 100%. Yeah, he is. He flies around the field, and he's cerebral, right? He's got a nose for the ball. He knows there's something to be said about a pure football player, right? And when you're trying to quantify or talk about what he brings, it's really hard to talk about it, because it's one of those things that you have to see. When you see a cerebral football player, like they mentioned Carter Nelson, Ed Foley mentioned Carter Nelson, and just how ahead of the game he is, because he's a really, really good football player, instinctual, disciplined. The game comes easy. Now, Shavers is that type of guy, right? Where he's just big, strong, physical, but he's had this mindset instilled in him. He's had to have this mindset instilled in him from a young age because you don't come in and get the praise that he got unless you come like as a true freshman, unless you come in and you outwork everybody, right? We've heard this talked about in press conferences before, but these freshmen have to come out and outwork everybody around them to make a name for themselves, right, in their freshman year. So that just lends to how good Vincent Shavers is just naturally as a football player with his nose for the football, with his cerebralness, with his IQ. But not only that, the physical, makeup of him. He's just a big, strong guy, and just the sky's the limit with him whenever we get an opportunity to see him develop his skills a little bit more. Shavers is the next Levante David. I would absolutely love that. I would absolutely love that. But very, very similar style, right? Levante David. I don't remember. I don't remember if y'all know, but when he came over from when he transferred in, they called him the Eraser. I'm pretty sure that was the nickname, the Eraser, right? He was just that hard hitting, nose for the football. He's going to go after you. He's going to go after you 100 miles an hour. So I think you're spot on in the type of player there, because Levante David was no fear, right? Like he's going to hit you and you're going to feel it. And he's not going to be worried about what happens to him or anything like that. He's going to hit you. He wants you to feel it. He wants to wear on you. And I think, Shavers is just that guy who's just going to go out there with reckless abandon and be able to make plays. I think he's going to make plays by just flying around. I think he's going to make some plays sometimes without even, really knowing what's going on. That happens on the field a lot of times. You get a young player out there, things start moving, and then you get a little confused out there. But I think he just has such an instinctual play style that he's going to be out there and be able to make plays no matter what. So just got home from work and then golf, so I missed most of the show. Well, it looks like you got to rewind it, Ken, and go back and watch some more. It's very exciting to hear several of these Miami recruits will see playing time this season. Yes, because one of the things about Miami recruits and these Miami-Dade County, these Florida recruits, is if they see players from their area playing and doing it at a high level, they're going to take notice of that. 100%. This I can't remember who, and it might have been Shaver's dad who kind of echoed that sentiment, but that is something that is going to be very valuable. That's a good point. That these guys are going to see ample playing time, because that is going to help Nebraska in the recruiting of that area. Remember watching Levante David still played JUCO here in Kansas, and he was a monster. Yeah, he was, man. When he came over, I know we expected him to be good when he came over, but what he became, dude, I think it was his first game where he just had that big hit on the sideline. I can't remember if that was his first game or just his first big hit, but he just had that big hit on the sideline. I cannot remember. I just remember that. That's all I remember. I don't remember anything else about it, but if they stay, we haven't had the best of luck with Florida Kids. Well, mind you, the recruiting style was a little bit different back then than now. Scott Frost, and I did a whole breakdown video on Scott Frost's recruiting style, but when Scott Frost recruited the state of Florida, at the time, some of those Florida teams were down, right? But as those teams started to kind of improve a little bit and started to recruit a little bit in their area, well, Scott Frost even lost Florida as a primary recruiting state. There were some cycles where Florida wasn't even the top recruited state that we ended up with in terms of commitments wise, and then barely any of them saw the field. I forget what the percentage was, but I broke it down. But barely any of them saw the field, and also the 500-mile radius was non-existent too. I think I calculated 7% of the recruiting class was from like the Nebraska area, or from Lincoln, or from Nebraska. I'm sorry. Whenever it was back in the 80s and 90s, the roster was about 38% of players from that area. So, and Matt Rule and his, recruiting class, he's got it to about 32%. So, building that back up, but a lot of things that Frost did recruiting wise is what led to him not having success in those areas. It was more so him than it is the players from those areas. Now California is a whole different animal. We've had, poor success with California recruits through a couple of coaches. So I typically like to, for the most part, not hit California heavy, but Florida, you got to have dogs from Florida, man. Florida and Texas. Those are the two big states that you have to recruit from. Those two produce the most NFL talent. And out of the top 10, so they came out with the top 10 high school football programs in the country. 5 of the 10 are from the state of Texas. 5 of the 10. And I think 3 of the top 5 or something like that are from the state of Texas. So yeah, got to recruit there heavy. And it's nice that Nebraska getting a foothold back down there. Next year, Shavers is going to be wearing number 4. Yeah, absolutely. Early playing time for these kids coming in from out of state will keep them here, and the longer, more they'll buy into as the programs, the fans, the state as a whole. 100%. Yeah, I don't think people factor that in enough. It's just like, if you see players from your state going to a school and being successful, that 100% encourages other players from that state to look that direction as well. 100%. And like I said, I think it was Shaver's dad who kind of confirmed this. I think it was. I don't quote me on that, but I think it was. I feel when Rule gets those talented 4-star Florida recruits on the field early, they will want to stay. That's the difference here. We've seen a year of retention already. 78% of the overall production, 76% on offense, or 77% of the overall production, 76% on offense and 78% on defense returned. And that is no small feat, especially in a year where you came in with a bunch of, this is another thing that's understated. He came into a team with a bunch of players that he didn't recruit, right? And still was able to retain that many of them because they bought into his style and what he does. So if it's his recruited players out of the state of Florida, absolutely 100%. And that's why I think Vincent Shavers being on the field this year is going to be big for recruiting in Nebraska and the state of Florida. I do. I 100% think it will. And not only that, he's getting a foothold in other areas, the Missouri area, right? Trying to get back out there. Building a little bit of a foothold in New Jersey, for as many players as they can get out of there. Very physical style. But what they're doing is very strategic and very smart. And I think this is going to lead to a lot more players staying in this system. I just think Scott Frost had this revolving door. He had nothing for them to keep them here. He made them promise after promise and just never followed through. And that's why he could keep the players here. And it was a disaster. I was actually even surprised looking through the numbers of what he did in terms of what he was recruiting in terms of the states. He had no secondary option. He had no tertiary option for recruiting. Like Florida, he put all his eggs in the Florida basket. And then once he started not getting players out of Florida, it was a crapshoot of where he was going next. And, Matt Rule's offers, most of the offers are in Texas, Nebraska, and Florida, because those are the players that you need to win. And you need the players, the most important are the ones closest to home, as we all know. 500-mile radius, those are the guys that are going to stick with your program. Those are the guys that are going to develop with your program, grow with you. And those are the guys that are going to be the leaders of your team, because those are guys that are going to be there, tenured longer. As time goes on, we're going to see more and more of these guys transferring and rotating and shorter tenures at schools. But when you're talking about building a roster, when you're talking about building a team of development, Matt Rule is doing 100% exactly that. And he's doing it very, very well. And as we see, the progress continues. David Sanders, the only reason he picked Tennessee, and that was what I talked about for the first, whenever we were in on him for that longest time, I said the one thing Nebraska had working against him was they got in the process extremely late. What did David Sanders say was the reason why Nebraska didn't come out on top? Is because they didn't have the time in that Tennessee had, right? Had they, the fact that they were able to get where they were in the amount of time, but if Nebraska had been recruiting him even another year longer, they probably land him. 6 months longer, they might land him, right? But again, those are the fruits of his labor starting to pay off, just getting these guys to campus. Dawson Merritt didn't have Nebraska in, I believe, his top 4 or top 6, but ended up with Nebraska in his top 2 with Alabama, right? So we're starting to see it come to fruition and the fruits of the labor pay off. So I'm getting to the last few comments here before I sign off. Can we talk about hope? Well, I have hope. And now this is the first year in a long number of years, we just have to hope. Yeah. This is the best I've felt about a a team in a very, very long time. And I can tell you more often than not, I'm pretty honest about my takes on the team going into the year. I will drink a little bit of Roulade, but 100% this is the most confident I've been in a team in a while, in a long time. So you see Rule hired another high school coach from Texas to boost the recruiting in Texas. I think he played in the NFL. Yeah, he it's one of those things where he mentions, like, thinking people talking about how he hires coaches for recruiting and stuff like that and how their connections are gone within a year. Well, he also does stuff like this where he's, he brings on another coach from that area. So I do think there's still a little bit of that dynamic going on there, of course. But yeah, good pickup there. I'm more excited about this year than agreed. Mike he's leaving us with 100. We got to drop on the Mike 100, Mike drop. We'll call it a Mike drop. All right. Last thing though, I did want to I put this out on my video. If you are interested in a hangout, right, where all of, fans, whoever wants to join, sits down and hangs out with me. We're going to, whether it be Google Hangout, whatever, I just want to try to get a head count. I want to try to probably maybe do this next Wednesday, if possible, maybe next Thursday. But if y'all are interested in that, drop a quick yes or no. And basically what it is we're just going to be, it's not going to be a recording. It's not going to be a live stream. There's going to be a bunch of us in there just talking football and, just chatting casually. And I want to, implement channel memberships. And I want that to be kind of a thing where members can hang out, and I'll bring in, a player here and there, or, former players, current players, coach, whatever. So I think that would be fun. I think it would be fun. And so if y'all are interested in that, let me know, because like I said, I'm trying to get a head count. I'm trying to get a good date and time. And even if you drop your comment after this video goes live, just drop your comment in the comments, because this video will go, public after I drop the live here. Just put yes or no in there, what time works best for you, and we'll be there. So do it live on YouTube, and I'm there. Well, this hangout. So this hangout's going to be just us. I want it to be live so that way people feel comfortable talking. A lot of people don't feel super comfortable talking, on screen and to a live audience. So I want to make sure everybody's comfortable. So it's just a casual place where we can all kind of chop it up and talk whatever, talk Husker football, talk, whatever. And just, I'll just make sure we kind of, carry on a conversation and make sure I have topics for us to talk about. But I think it'd be fun. So but let me know if y'all be interested once this video goes live. And also, if y'all don't mind dropping a comment, drop a like when it goes live as well. But I appreciate y'all again, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I couldn't do this without y'all, man. The growth this off season has been, because y'all helped me out with the likes, the comments, and everything. And I want y'all to know how much that means to me from the bottom of my heart. Couldn't do this without y'all. I appreciate every single one of y'all that tune in with me every week. And I'm really excited to spend this season with y'all, man. And hopefully we have a lot of fun this season. So I'm looking forward to it. Got a lot of stuff to bring y'all. Anthony Grant, he's supposed to come on next Tuesday. So that's still in the air, but I think Anthony Grant will be coming on next Tuesday. If so, I'm bringing him on. We can talk about a little bit about the running back position as well, get his thoughts. And I think it'll be a good transition into the game week, get a little bit of a chat from Anthony Grant on here. So if y'all are interested in that, y'all tune in next Tuesday as well. And that'll do it for me here. Appreciate you. And also, if y'all want to get on Gen Red, he's trying to get 500 subscribers by the season, and he'll shave his head. I think that's what he said. So last announcement too, I forgot. We're on Spotify. We're on Amazon, Audible, Amazon Music, whatever. We're on Spotify and Amazon for the live streams. If you want the audio version of this, you can find us over there. That way, if you miss the show, you can check it out on there. So sorry, Moonbot. That's unfortunate, man. We miss Moonbot. Still think we have a chance. Sanders at the end of the season, legitimately, Dylan has a good year. Absolutely. We're not out of the woods by any means. He still could 100% come here. So, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you everybody again for tuning in. I appreciate y'all. And, I'll have some videos coming out for y'all this week, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.